Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be looking at the differences between graphite pencils and charcoal pencils. In particular, I'm going to be looking at the differences between the way they lay down, the way they erase and blend, and also whether there's any shine or not. Okay, so the first thing I want to look at is how the two pencils lay down. For the charcoal, I am using a General's charcoal pencil with the HB lead, and I'm also using a HB Derwent pencil for the graphite. For laying down, I want to look at how they lay down and also the type of pencil strokes you can get. Okay, so I've laid down both the charcoal and graphite pencils, and I've done some pencil strokes for each one. As you can see, the charcoal comes out a lot grittier than the graphite, and also the pencil strokes are more fuzzy and you can't get them as precise and clean. You will also notice that even though the charcoal pencil is a HB lead, it comes out really dark compared to the graphite, so it is hard to get your light and mid-tones with a charcoal pencil. The way I do it is I use a brush and some charcoal powder and just lightly brush that over, and that gives me some really light tones. With the graphite, when you lay it down, it comes out much smoother, and you can see that you can get some really light and varied pencil strokes, and also you can get really thin pencil strokes if you need to. This is because you can sharpen the pencil really finely to get a really pointed tip, but with a charcoal pencil it's hard to sharpen to get really fine points. Next, I look at how you can blend the two different types of pencils. So I start by laying down some more charcoal and graphite pencil, and then I'm going to first try blending it with a paintbrush, and then I'm going to try and blend it with a tortillon and stump. As you can see, it's really easy to blend charcoal with a paintbrush. I use this method all the time. It really helps you get soft, varied tones and also make it look very fuzzy. I really like using paintbrush for charcoal. The paintbrush works so well because when you put the charcoal pencil down, it releases a lot of powder on the surface, so it's really easy just to blend that powder together to fill in all those white grains of the paper. The paintbrush is also really good to use because it doesn't damage the paper too much, like a stump would do. The stump works well to blend the charcoal as well, but you can still see some of the grainy texture beneath it. Therefore, I'd much rather use a paintbrush than a stump to blend charcoal, unless I want that bit of texture and grainy look beneath it, like if I was doing stubbled facial hair, for example. As you can see, it's much harder to blend graphite pencil with a paintbrush. This is because the graphite doesn't release as much powder when you lay it down. The stump does work a lot better to blend the graphite. However, I would rather use something like a chamois cloth or tissue paper to blend graphite. It gives you a much smoother finish. I think that tissue paper and chamois cloths are really good when doing faces, so skin tones with graphite. It really helps you to get a smooth finish. Here is a closer up of the blending for the charcoal. As you can see, the paintbrush really smooths out that charcoal and gives it a nice fuzzy look compared to the picture beside it where you just laid down the charcoal. Next, I just go in with tissue paper and just lighten up the charcoal and the graphite. I do this to show you that you can lighten up the tones if you've gone a bit too dark with tissue paper. It's a really good way to lift the charcoal or graphite off of the page. It works much better with charcoal, but if you do it with charcoal you do tend to see some of the grainy texture beneath it. Next, I layer more charcoal over the top to show that you can blend this again to get a darker tone, and if you have any white bits, to fill them in again. The paintbrush works really well at blending out multiple layers, but the stump doesn't work very well. It just makes it look a bit bitty and grainy after the second layer. Next, I look at how you can use a kneaded eraser and an electric eraser to rub out any bits of charcoal and graphite. I start by laying down the charcoal, and then I blend out of the first half with a paintbrush. First, I will test the kneaded eraser, and then I'll test the electric eraser both on the blended section and the section that's just been laid down. I blend the first half of the graphite out with a tissue paper instead, because I found this is the best way to blend graphite pencil. With the kneaded eraser on the blended section, it did lift quite a lot of the graphite off, but it did leave bits of texture and quite dirty marks underneath. So it wouldn't be good if you wanted to erase dark areas on a skin tone, for example, because you won't get a smooth finish. The electric eraser on the blended portion gave a really clean line. It didn't come out completely white, there's still some charcoal stains underneath, but it did lift quite a lot of the colour to create a very clean line. Now I try using a kneaded eraser on the non-blended portion of the charcoal. The kneaded eraser seemed to lift up a lot more of the charcoal, but because it wasn't blended, it's very gritty underneath. On the other hand, when I used the electric eraser on the non-blended portion, it lifted it up a lot more and you couldn't see very much underneath. The kneaded eraser worked well on the blended portion to lift up the colour, but it didn't create a smooth transition, it was still quite patchy. But the electric eraser worked really well to lift up the majority of the graphite pencil and didn't leave much smudging or patchiness behind. The kneaded eraser worked really well on the part that had just been laid down. Same with the electric eraser, it seemed to just lift the graphite straight off with minimal graphite left behind. Lastly, I just want to talk about the shine given off with these two different pencils. I laid down the charcoal and the graphite. I used the darkest for each one. With charcoal, there is no shine given off. It's completely matte. It doesn't reflect any light, so you won't get any shine at all. Here I am laying down a 9B lead, which is near enough the darkest type of lead you can get for graphite. As you can see, straight away you see the reflection. If I am to tilt the paper, you can see that it's really dark in one light, but as you turn it, it becomes really, really bright. And this is the main reason that I will never use graphite. Even though in all the other areas, it's much better at laying down, it gives a smoother finish. I hate shine, and it's the one thing that turns me off using graphite altogether. I feel that it takes the realism out of your work when in one light, all you'll see is the darkest portions of your drawing completely reflective. I really dislike it. Therefore, I much prefer using charcoal. I think if you know how to use it right and can create mid-tones and light tones, then it doesn't become much of a problem at all with erasing and blending. It's much easier to erase lighter tones and mid-tones when they've just been used with a brush painted on, rather than laying down the pencil straight onto the paper. I like to put powdered charcoal straight onto my paintbrush and then paint it on that way. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and are more aware of the differences between graphite and charcoal, and I hope this can help you if you're a beginner decide which one you prefer. If you like this type of video, please remember to subscribe for more videos like this. I've also done a video for how to get skin tones using charcoal powder, so go ahead and check that out. I'll attach it as a card up above.